just landed. Our plane crashed.
With their plane upside down on the tarmac, amazingly, most passengers managed to walk away unharmed, wearing whatever they had on for their Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis as crews doused the fuselage in the freezing cold.
Everything, drop it. Come on.
Passengers had to crawl on the plane's roof to get out, encountering snow on the runway after a harrowing landing. This woman posting video while upside down, then getting out in a daze.
I was just in a plane crash. Oh my God.
543 ground runway 24 right, data scale altimeter 2993. Standby. This airplane just crashed at 23.
It was routine, but it was noticeable that the runways were kind of in a weird condition. And when we hit, it was just a super hard, hit the ground and the plane went sideways.
It's just at least a real experience, and I was just in a shock, and I was like, did I just see what I just saw, right? So, yeah, it was just unbelievable.
Taylor Lundquist had come to pick up a friend on that flight.
You just said that it bounced when it landed, and then it was upside down.
That Bombardier CRJ-900 carrying 80 passengers and crew faced gusty winds as it descended. Exactly what happened in the flight's final seconds isn't clear.
I could see that it just struggled just before landing, and I think it just, because of the high winds, it just flipped.
Officials closed all Pearson runways for hours, diverting flights elsewhere for much of the afternoon.
We can now confirm that 18 injured passengers have been transported to the local area hospitals.
Officials providing only a brief update and taking no questions about an incident that's left many wondering what happened.
Quite incredible. Thomas, what more do we know about the injured?
At least 3 had to be airlifted here to area hospitals, including one child who had to be taken to a downtown children's hospital here in Toronto. The number of injured has fluctuated throughout the day, with at least one patient taken to hospital this evening. And you heard Pearson's fire chief there saying 18 is the latest number of passengers and others taken to hospital after this crash landing. But we keep highlighting it because it is extraordinary after those pictures you've seen. No one has died here. Erica.
Okay, thanks for this, Thomas. Thomas Degla at Pearson Airport tonight. The investigation into the cause of this crash is now just getting underway. Ellen Morrow takes a look at what's standing out so far to some who know the aviation industry well.
I was just in a plane crash. Oh my God.
How could this happen? The daunting question now facing investigators. As they work to determine the cause of the crash, much is being made of the weather, with wind gusts of up to 65 kilometers an hour and blowing snow reported at Pearson International at the time the plane was landing.
If those gusts exceed the crosswind landing capabilities of the airplane, they don't have a lot of choice but to try to go around. And if they're too close to the ground, they can't even do that.
Questions, too, about how slippery the runway may have been after a weekend winter storm.
If you mix in a slippery runway and a strong crosswind, it could become a problem. And I suspect that might have been a factor here.
Oh my God.
There will be clues and images of the crash, the smoking but intact fuselage, and that broken wing. If it didn't snap off, aviation experts say this could all have been so much worse.
That fuel is either in the wing tanks, and if the wings were ripped off, the fuel basically was separated from the aircraft.
Once the aircraft starts rolling like that, if these wings don't break off, it tears that fuselage in half and causes fatalities.
Pearson CEO commended airport staff.
Airport emergency workers mounted a textbook response, reaching the site within minutes and quickly evacuating the passengers.
The crash is reminiscent of this day in 2005, an Air France jet skidding off a Pearson runway, landing during a powerful thunderstorm. Like this latest incident, everyone on board evacuated safely with some serious injuries.
Mother Nature is always a big factor in what we do, and we try to mitigate those risks as much as we can, but surprises still exist.
Despite all those concerns raised about the weather, the fire chief for Pearson Airport in an evening update said the runway was dry at the time of the crash and that there were no crosswind conditions. An investigation is underway, being led by the Transportation Safety Board. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Mississauga.
Let's turn now to CBC News meteorologist Chris Potter. Chris, give us an idea of the weather conditions Toronto's airport was dealing with leading up to and during the crash.
You almost have to, Erica, rewind the tape to this past weekend. Obviously, we had a snowstorm. It encompassed all the forecast region, including the GTA, obviously including Pearson Airport. And that dropped 25 centimeters of snow when you combine Saturday and Sunday. And you combine that with what we saw last week, about 26 centimeters. This past 5 days, we've had more snow than the entire month of December and January combined. And with that snow from our system, as it cleared, we got into very strong westerly winds. And this tends to happen when it comes to a departing storm system, now off into Atlantic Canada. So with these strong westerly winds, it's picking up moisture off of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. So lake effect snow, although not targeting the Toronto Pearson Airport, it does look like a couple of bursts of snow did make it through. But it's really the winds that made a significant issue. Sustained winds were about 50 kilometers an hour, Erica, but wind gusts during the time of the crash were closer to 70 kilometers an hour.
Okay, clearly a lot going on. Thanks for this, Chris Potter, our CBC News meteorologist. As you heard, for more than 3 hours, the Toronto airport's runways were effectively shut down. Flights caught in the air at the time were diverted, many to their point of origin or airports in the U.S. But in Canada, many were sent to Montreal and to Ottawa, a handful to Hamilton, Ontario, and some as far away as Winnipeg. Nicole Williams is at Toronto's Pearson International Airport. Nicole, the runway closures today are still disrupting travel.
That's right, Erica. It has been a truly chaotic week for air passengers here. Today, as you mentioned, we saw dozens of flights redirected to other airports in this country and further, and that is on top of the hundreds of flights that were either delayed or canceled outright because of this plane crash. Now, as we heard, this is already on top of what has been a really brutal week for air passengers, and that is because of those two major snowstorms we saw throughout the last 5 days. Many of those flights throughout the week canceled because of how much snow and wind was gusting through Ontario. And so we saw hundreds of flights throughout the last 7 days grounded as well, as far as New York, Washington, even Cuba, and airports were already trying to deal with that backlog. So today, throughout the airport, we could see many passengers lining up at customer service desks, even more people on the phones trying to figure out alternative travel plans as their current routes were thrown into a lurch. And you could really hear the exhaustion and the frustration of people having to yet again find their travel plans disrupted. And that wasn't just here, it was at airports across this country.
Started in Vancouver, heading to Toronto. Flight was turned around back to Vancouver, rebooked to Winnipeg and then to Toronto, and now have been delayed once again in Winnipeg going to Toronto.
Started my trip yesterday, 8 o'clock. Everything canceled because of the weather. Luggage was lost. Luggage was not. Million messages coming through saying, oh, it's here, it's there, it's over there. And now we're here again. We have no flight. And unfortunate accident on the runway, but yeah.
Now, with those two runways still closed, airport authorities are suggesting, people still need to expect delays. However, most operations have resumed. That being said, look at your flight status before you head to the airport.
Okay, thanks, Nicole.